on Main Street. And if you wanted to shoot and kill the President of the United States, it would have been easy to do. He's in a convertible, and a mob of people in a high-rise city going about as fast as we're going right now. No way would a politician do this today. But folks, back then, it was a time of innocence. This is the recording as President Kennedy is coming down Main Street of Dallas.
Here comes the first car with police chief Jeff Curry and the sheriff Bill Tucker. And here is the President of the United States. And what a crowd, and what a tremendous song he's getting now. There are people absolutely looking from every window here in downtown Dallas. We're going further down, and just about now, as we can see far down Main Street towards Stevens Freeway, the motorcade is just about to reach the location of the county courthouse.
It is now 12:25 p.m. November 22nd. The motorcade is right here, coming down Main Street. And at this exact same time, back in the nation's capital, Washington, D.C., witnesses are being called to testify to the biggest political scandal of the 20th century. They are making a case against the Vice President, LBJ. The investigation was this: how can a man who's never had a real job before, he's never been in the private sector, always a public servant, outside of his wife's money, amass a personal fortune of $15 million. Today, that'd be over $70 million. How did the Vice President LBJ do this? Now, President Kennedy, he knew of the investigation going on in Washington. And even though he said publicly many times that LBJ would still be on the ticket in 1964, Washington insiders knew that LBJ was going to be taken off the ticket in 1964. The Kennedys no longer needed him. The relationship between the Kennedys and LBJ, it can be described with just one word: hate. They hated each other. The Kennedys humiliated LBJ. Before becoming vice president, LBJ is a very powerful man in Washington. He was the most powerful Senate Majority Leader in American history, and he desperately wanted to be president. He ran against Kennedy in 1960 for the Democratic nomination for president. LBJ was the favorite. He thought, there is no way that some young kid from Massachusetts is going to beat me. But he did get beat. So as the motorcade is right here, coming down Main Street, people cheering, screaming, confetti falling from the sky. This is the lowest point of the vice president's political career. Now, we all know LBJ was sworn in as president on November 22nd. Do you know what happened to that investigation back in Washington after LBJ is sworn in as president? That investigation is completely stopped, and this scandal would not surface again for many years. Does anybody remember the name of the scandal? The Bobby Baker scandal, folks. Now, folks, they got to figure out where they're going to have the fundraiser in Dallas. The Kennedys have already put it into plan. The fundraiser in Dallas is going to be held at the Women's Youth Building in Fair Park. Folks, that's behind us in the eastern part of the city. Governor John Connally of Texas steps in and he says, guys, let's do this fundraiser over at the Trade Mart. It's on the way back to the airport, it's easier. They argued about this. That finally, Governor Connally, he throws his hands up and he says, fellas, if we don't do this fundraiser at the Trade Mart, I'm out. So the Kennedys gave in, and it was set to be held at the Trade Mart. And folks, that changed everything. The motorcade is only supposed to come down Main Street, but you cannot get on to Stemmons Freeway and go over to the Trade Mart from Main Street. So they had to put in the right-hand turn on Houston Street and the left-hand turn on Elm Street, because that's how you get over to the Trade Mart. And with that change, the presidential motorcade now goes right by the Texas School Book Depository building. You see, folks, President Kennedy really trusted Governor John Connally. Before becoming governor of Texas, John Connally served under President Kennedy as his Secretary of the Navy. And as governor of Texas, John Connally has an 81% approval rate. Folks, that's unheard of in politics. That means everybody loves you. So JFK trusted Connally. And Governor Connally, he was the architect of the entire Texas trip. Except for one thing. The motorcade here in Dallas. Governor Connally said, Mr. President, I don't think you should do a motorcade through Dallas. It'll get you very tired. We need you fresh for the fundraiser. Mr. President, you make a lot more money when you're fresh. And you see, folks, the president's health, it's not good. He's got a very bad back. And on November 22nd, President Kennedy is wearing a thick corset and ace bandages wrapped in a figure 8 around his body. Over at the trademarks, there are 2,600 men and women dressed in their finest clothes, awaiting the arrival of the president. 2,600 steak dinners have been prepared, and President Kennedy is going to select his steak at random. Now, folks, straight ahead of us, the building, that is the former Texas School Book Depository. We're going to take a left-hand turn as the motorcade did right here on Elm Street. When we make that turn, look up to the corner 6th floor window. Folks, this would be the last left-hand turn of President Kennedy's life. He just doesn't know it yet. And up ahead on the right is the infamous Grassy, Knoll, and picket fence. And right here is where the shots rang out.
Something has happened in the motorcade group. Something, I repeat, has happened in the motorcade group. The gym of people went the hill along Elm Street, there by the Simmons Freeway. Several police officers are finishing up the hill at this time. Stand by just a moment, please. Something has happened in the motorcade group. Stand by, please. Parkland Hospital, there has been a shooting. Parkland Hospital has been advised to stand by for a severe gunshot wound. I repeat, a shooting in the motorcade in the downtown area.
The president of motorcade picks up speed and rushes President Kennedy to Parkland Hospital, 3.5 miles north of 35 in that direction. Dealey Plaza is now in confusion and chaos. The police storm up the Texas School Book Depository building because witnesses have seen a shooter up on the 6th floor. The police search the building floor by floor, and the patrolman, Marion Baker, he sees a white male in the lunchroom on the 2nd floor, and that white male is very calm. The superintendent for this Texas School Book Depository tells Dallas police, that man standing there, he's okay. He's an employee. The name of that employee is Lee Harvey Oswald. The president was shot at 12:30 p.m. And at 12:33 p.m., just 3 minutes after, Lee Harvey Oswald exits the building of the School Book Depository and he boards a city bus. He didn't ride the city bus long, it gets caught up in traffic. Then Oswald hails a taxi cab driven by a man named Mr. William Whaley. He tells Mr. Whaley, take me to the 500 block of North Avenue. But folks, who is Lee Harvey Oswald? Historians will tell you he's a nobody. He's a misfit. He's an outcast. But when you look at Oswald's life, what he really is, he's an atypical somebody. Oswald was born in New Orleans, Louisiana. He had 2 older brothers, and his father, he died 2 months before he was born. And his mom? Absolutely horrible. She wanted to give all 3 boys away to an orphanage. But the orphanage wouldn't take Lee Harvey Oswald, but they did take the 2 older boys. So Oswald and his mother, they moved to New York City. And as Oswald becomes old enough to go to school, he becomes very disinterested. He skips school day after day, and those days turn into weeks. He spends most of his time down at the Bronx City Zoo, until one day, he's caught by a truant officer. Oswald tells this officer the reason he goes to the zoo so often, it's because he relates better to animals than he does people. He never learned to foster a real relationship. He trusted no one. Oswald never did graduate from school. He dropped out at 16, and at 17, he joins the United States Marine Corps. And this is where Oswald learns how to shoot a rifle. He earns the score of marksman. He does a tour in the South Pacific. He visits Japan and the Philippines. But just like school, he does not have a stellar career. He is essentially kicked out of the Marine Corps. He is given a less than honorable discharge. And this made Oswald very angry. He is so resentful of the Marine Corps and the United States government that what I'm about to tell you is what makes